Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Nas, and here we talk about money, business, and personal finance. When it comes to finance, there's nothing really hotter right now than cryptocurrency and investing in crypto. There's so much talks of crypto going about good and bad, and everybody's super intrigued by this. I personally love crypto because of the security and the privacy of this exchange tool. However, there are certain lies being spread around about cryptocurrency, primarily around taxation, the negative impacts of cryptocurrency on the planet, as well as any links to criminal activity. So in this video, we're going to be talking about these 3 lies that are being told to us and busting some of the myths around crypto. So if you're new here, make sure you subscribe because I put out videos every Tuesdays and Thursdays on all things related to money, business, and personal finance. Currently, we're experiencing one of the biggest changes in human history when it comes to money and the banking system, and that is the global adaptation of cryptocurrency. I'll admit that I'm definitely going into this video with a little bit of bias because I do love crypto, but the fact that I don't like centralized power, whether we're talking about the banking institutions or corporate behemoths or governments, there's just too much power that these organizations desire and too much involvement from them in our own lives. I believe that power should be in the hands of the people. These mammoth organizations should be serving us with our best interests at heart, not serve the minority, the elites. It's to serve us, the general people. This is why I'm so excited about cryptocurrency, because it's totally shaking up the system so much. Freedom is the fundamental point of crypto. Financial freedom much? Its strongest points are that it's decentralized, it's anonymous, there's no one person, institution, or government that controls it. However, not everybody has this point of view. There are a lot of negative information that's circulating around about cryptocurrency in the media, and lots of people are pushing back against it. Now, I have my own theories on this, but I do believe that a lot of this information is coming from people that are being threatened by this type of new currency that we have here. I'm talking about the governments and the mainstream financial world. They're trying to instill what we like to call FUD, or fear, uncertainty, and doubt. There is so much at stake for these banking systems, the traditional banking system and the financial world, the way that it's structured. There's a lot at stake here for them. And if anything comes to destroy it or tamper with it, that's so much money and so much power loss. Whenever you do read any information at all, you need to know what's behind that, right? What is the agenda? What is the narrative? Who is funding for this information? And what structures are they trying to keep in place that are going to be beneficial for them? We see that throughout media these days. Media is completely biased in order to suit the agenda of the person that's funding the organization. We know the different news sources that are either left-wing or right-wing. There's so much political infusion into this information that there's no such thing as unbiased news anymore these days. And that also comes into play when we're thinking about the financial world. For example, it's so easy to spread a message far and wide to discredit something that might actually just simply be threatening an organization or some billionaire that owns that media stream. So whenever you do read these headlines, don't just go ahead and blindly trust it. Find out who's writing it and what's the purpose of their story. Because oftentimes, especially in the news, it's not just to purely give you that information, it's to sway you one way or the other. So with that out of the way, the main aim of this video is to show you an example of what I mean that the mainstream media is swaying information, and show you the lies that are being told to us around cryptocurrency in particular. I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice, and I'm no expert, but I'll show you some data that I can pull on to identify that there might be some misinformation being spread about this topic, but you can decide for yourself at the end of this video. I'll leave links to all the articles and information I'm pulling on in the description box below. So number 1, cryptocurrency is used by criminals. This is firstly the most common narrative around cryptocurrency in the mainstream media, that this is a tool for criminals to do anonymous business due to the decentralized nature of this currency, as well as how secure the system of transacting is, and of course this leads a lot of people to believe that this is a very attractive tool for criminals. But it turns out that this is not actually the case. Of course you can find illegal activity in almost any industry. Anything, literally anything that can be traded or used for value has the consequence of potentially being used by criminals. And yes, I'm sure there are criminals that also use cryptocurrency, but it appears that the volume of how much criminals are using cryptocurrency for is not actually that high, and it seems to be decreasing year over year. But don't just take my word for it, let's pull on some data to confirm and show that this could actually be the case. I'm pulling on the data from a Forbes article as this is the most credible source that I could find on this topic, and if you want to read this article for yourself, there's a link in the description box below. Firstly, according to the United Nations, it's estimated that anywhere between 2 and 5% 20% of annual GDP around the world is linked to illegal activity. That's somewhere between $1.6 to $4 trillion being used for illegal activity all over the world. Now, let's compare that to cryptocurrency, shall we? In 2019, it was estimated that roughly 2.1% of all cryptocurrency transactions all over the world were linked to illegal activities. That equals to about $21.4 billion in transfers. I'm not going to pretend that $21.4 billion is not a hell of a lot of money. However, it's not really that much in comparison to the lowest estimate of real-world money that's being used for criminal activity, which was $1.6 trillion. In short, that means that cryptocurrency used in crime amounts to just about 1.3% of all crime involving money. And what's more interesting is that according to the Forbes article, the use of cryptocurrency in crime is actually decreasing year over year. That's really great. The percentage of crypto transfers used in illegal activities went down from actually 2.1% all the way down to 0.34%. In monetary terms, that means that $21.4 billion in illegal money transfers using crypto came down to $10 billion in just 1 year. So essentially, we're seeing that criminals don't actually use cryptocurrency as much as we're being told. And this is decreasing at a huge rate. No one seems to be talking about that in the news. We're being pushed to one narrative, but if there are changes in this information, they're still likely to stick to a particular narrative because they still want people to believe the same old story in order for them to infuse fear, uncertainty, and doubt into this shiny new object that is surely dangerous for our economy or people in power. So yes, governments and banking systems don't like it, and that is precisely why I love it. Number 2, crypto is bad for the environment. This is like a very, very common misconception, and this has been exacerbated by when Elon Musk back in February said that they would no longer be accepting Bitcoin as a form of payment for a Tesla because it's very harmful for the environment. You see, the big issue a lot of people are bringing up around the negative aspects of Bitcoin is that it's very bad for the environment. It's not green enough. And it comes down to the way that Bitcoin is actually created or mined, because it is mined, just not in the typical way you'd imagine. Just like you do gold mining, Bitcoin also has to be mined. I'm not going to go too much into detail about this, but I am going to give you a general overview. But when you're talking about creating money in the current system, essentially the government creates it or prints it, and voila, you have your money. So for Bitcoin, it's not really pulled out of the ground, but it does rely on people solving blocks of very, very complex mathematical problems or cryptography problems, and then they're rewarded a Bitcoin for their efforts. So to solve these problems, you need very, very powerful computers. The more powerful computers you have, the more likely you'll be able to solve these complex problems or a portion of this problem. And whoever succeeds in solving these complex problems first will be rewarded with a fraction of a Bitcoin. So it's a race against time, and this is very simply how a new Bitcoin enters into circulation. Now, this is where the main problem comes in with where people are criticizing Bitcoin. It's what's needed in order to solve these complex problems. The more time that goes on, the more complex the problems become and the harder they are to be solved. So now you need even more powerful computers. And that's the thing, using computers for Bitcoin mining has become a huge, huge business. There's literally Bitcoin farms set up all around the world. On the screen right now, what you're seeing is an example of a Bitcoin farm in Iceland. It contains literally thousands of high-powered computers that are constantly running trying to mine Bitcoin 24/7. See, Bitcoin farms can be found all over the world, and the big criticism that they all have is how much electricity that these farms actually end up using, especially considering the declining health of our planet, because these days we want to make the right decisions for the planet. So how bad is Bitcoin really in comparison to other financial institutions and industries? Well, oftentimes when we see articles online about Bitcoin, and I'm talking about the negative aspects of Bitcoin, we always see the negative heading saying, Bitcoin uses X amount of energy per year, it uses X amount of energy relative to a certain country. But that's when you really have to ask yourself, compared to what? So let's take different industries in this financial sphere and compare them side by side. I'm going to be talking about the gold mining industry as well as the global banking system. There's a ton of data out there, but I'm going to be looking at reports that came out earlier this year in March 2021. The report is linked in the description box below, as are all the other links to every article that I'm referring to in this video. It's estimated that Bitcoin uses somewhere around half of the energy required that the global financial sector requires, as well as the global gold mining sector requires. So cryptocurrency already looks like it's doing quite well on this front, but the report is not even taking into account the full spectrum of things, right? So it's only taking into account the energy usage, but what about when it comes to the use of ATMs in the banking system, the computer use, the office space, the branches, etc.? That's the only thing that it's comparing to. It's not taking into consideration the amount of work, effort, and resources that go into printing money itself. Creating needing that cash right now. So there are studies that claim that Bitcoin only uses about 10% of the energy required as opposed to other sectors like the global financial sector. But I personally wanted to be as conservative as possible when it comes to these studies. Even so, being conservative, it still seems like cryptocurrency is doing quite well. It's ahead of the curve. So not only is cryptocurrency more secure and private than traditional banking systems, it seems like it's also using much less energy and far more efficient. But again, all these studies are going to be linked in the bio, so you can have a little research for yourself. Number 3, it's a tool used for people to evade taxes. Who comes to mind first when I think about the phrase evading taxes? Lastly, I'm going to be talking about taxes and the narrative that cryptocurrency is just used by people in order to hold their money anonymously in order to avoid paying taxes. If you know anything about this channel, you know that I'm all here for helping people reduce their taxes legally. And if this tool is available for billionaires and the ultra rich that they can reduce their taxes with, I think that everyday citizens should have access to this information as well. However, there is a very, very big difference between illegally avoiding paying taxes and legally reducing your tax bill. The people that have a problem against lowering your taxes legally are probably the exact same people that have a problem with cryptocurrency. The assumption is that so many naughty people are taking this money, this cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, and hiding it away in order to not pay taxes. This is simply not true. Cryptocurrency is considered to have value almost by all governments around the world these days. It might not be legal tender, but that doesn't mean that it's not valuable. Stocks aren't legal tender either, but that doesn't mean that the government can tax you on the capital gains that you've made from stocks this year. The same thing applies to cryptocurrencies in countries such as the United States, Canada, Australia, and most of Europe. You are legally required to report the crypto holdings that you have the same way that you would report any of the property that you hold. In Canada, for example, cryptocurrency is regulated the exact same way when it comes to capital gains, just as any other investment that you might have. And in most of the world where cryptocurrency exchanges exist, where you buy and sell crypto, they're all legally regulated and they have to report to the government the exact same way that stock exchanges or banks have to. And yes, there's always going to be that small percentage of people that want to try to avoid paying taxes, ones that have those secret accounts all over the world, or they stash their money underneath their mattresses. It doesn't matter that crypto exists. People have been trying to avoid paying taxes since the inception of the concept of taxation. Now, I don't think that this is a very good strategy. You should absolutely not engage in it because the governments are watching. They know so much about you and they're gonna find out eventually. The fines are so great, it's too much of a headache and absolutely not worth it. There are several legal ways for you to reduce your taxes, and you should just study up on this. It's not really that difficult. Deductions, business entities around the world, and offshore banking are all very legal ways for you to reduce your tax bill. And if you're interested in learning more about these methods, check out this video I have posted right up here where I talk about how you can reduce your tax bill by forming entities. So when you hear this narrative that people are using crypto in order to evade paying taxes, it's simply not true. Cryptocurrency, as I've explained, is regulated the exact same way as any other investment like stock, bonds, real estate, and all else. It's simply just not true, okay? So there you go. Those are some of the interesting lies that we're being fed about cryptocurrency right now. But there's a strong community and rise of cryptocurrencies right now. And I really think that it's unavoidable that there's a shift in the financial system that we're going to see in our own lifetimes. It's a good way to stay up to date and stay informed about what's going on in this area, whether you like it or not. Changes happen, it's unavoidable, but it's good to know about everything going on in the economy around you. And to know that if you see certain things, especially in mainstream media, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's a good thing. What we probably already know is that we've reached a tipping point. There's no going back from here. There's so much power behind cryptocurrency these days. So many people, billionaires and institutional investors that have invested in it now. We don't really know where this landscape really is going to go. We don't know what it's going to look like in a few years, but it's shifting immensely, I can tell you that. Let me know what your thoughts are about cryptocurrency in the comment section below. I'd love to know what are some of the lies that you've seen that are just complete myths and not true. With that said, you guys, as always, thank you so much for tuning in with me today. If you found any value from this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Let me know what your thoughts are about cryptocurrency. I'd love to know what are some of the other lies that you've seen that are just absolute myths and not completely true at all. And I'd love to know what you think the next hot altcoin is going to be. I'll see you in the next one.